Kia ora, welcome to my YouTube channel Kiwi Bushcraft and Survival, and today I'm going to explain how to get good powder drops on your Dillon RL550B progressive reloader. So what I mean by powder drops is the amount of powder dropping into your case, okay, coming out of the funnel and into your case, so that you get the same amount of powder in here each time. They can be very accurate, the Dillon, if they're set up properly. Okay, so let's just start out with some of the basics. Okay, so basically the powder measure, or the powder funnel here, up here, the powder container, you want this reasonably full. I wouldn't probably have any less than the powder that I've got in here at the moment. The more you have in here, the better, because it's going to have more gravitational pressure going down here, which it feeds into this powder slide here. Okay, so obviously the more you have in here, the better. This amount here still works very accurately, but obviously it works on gravity. Okay, so what happens is when you pull down the lever on the here we go here. When you pull down on the lever here on your Dillon, you pull it down. What happens is the powder drops from here and into this powder slide. Okay, I should rephrase that. What happens is if you have powder already in here, that's probably not a good way of explaining it either. What I'll do is I'll do it by actually putting a case in. It'll be easier to explain that way. So basically you get your case. It's got to have a primer on the bottom. Okay, I've got a new primer on here. It hasn't been used. Alright, and you want that in there because otherwise if you don't, your powder's going to fall out the bottom. When you put your powder in, it's just going to come out the bottom, and that's no good. So you want a primer on here. I always like to have a new primer. I don't like to do it with old primers. It could knock your measurements out slightly when you put them on the scales. So anyway, let's say we put this onto here. Okay, and we pull down the lever. Okay, so when we pull down the lever, if it's got powder in here, which it currently does, okay, I've actually got it set to 60 grains, okay, which is the max for 308 for the bullets that I'm firing, and the type of powder that I'm using, okay. But the powder that's in here, when I bring this up, when I bring the lever down and the case goes up, okay, what's happening now is that the powder that's currently in this slide here, alright, is dropping into my case. Okay, and when I come up to here, alright, it's still empty in there at the moment. Until I push this lever forward, it will drop some of this powder into the slide here for the next case. Alright, so let's push it forward. I like to pause, hold and release because it's working on gravity. If you go really fast, you might not get all the powder in there, okay, because it's only dropping down through gravity, and that takes time. So you want to give it some time to make sure it's all dropped in there. Okay, don't rush that part of the process. Then we get our powder that's in here, okay, and we're going to, I'll bring this forward slightly. Alright, and what we're going to do is we are going to measure it. Okay, so it's in grains at the moment. What I like to do is I like to cover my hand over it just to protect anything from dropping out. Drop it in slowly, don't rush when you drop it in, because this powder is very light, okay, and it can move obviously. Oh, 45. I'll put that back in there. I thought I had it set to 46, but I must be wrong. Okay, I'll try that again. Right, I've got the powder down, hold, bring it up, push it forward slightly, and release. It's the handle. Forward, put the powder in. There we go. Oh, I did have it on 46. I don't know why that last one was 45. Drop that back in. Do another one. Yeah, not too bad. I could probably give it a little bit of a turn to get it to the 46. Let's do one more. .46. That'll drop down to 46. Right, 45.8, eh? That movement around here is the garage door shaking. There's a little bit of wind out there, which can affect the scales, but that's pretty accurate, eh? You know, it's pretty accurate. Right, so we're sitting on 46 grains, okay, give or take, you know. I mean, you know, 0.2, you know, you can't really go wrong there, 0.2. That's nothing, alright. It's accurate as. Anyway, so how do we get it that accurate? That's the real question. Right, so most people will know that what we need to do to increase with this lever up here, most people will know that with this nut here, if we turn it clockwise, it's going to increase the amount of powder, okay, that drops into this slide. Okay, if we turn this nut here to the right or clockwise, it's going to increase the amount of powder that's going to come out of the powder holder here, okay, and into here, right, into the slide. Every time we push the lever forward, that's going to increase the amount of powder that goes into here. Okay, if we turn this nut to the left or anti-clockwise, it's going to decrease the amount of powder that drops from here and into this slide here. Alright, now so the important thing here is that you really want, if you're doing large calibers, okay, if you're doing 308 and or La Pua, things like that, you want the large slide, powder slide, okay. I think, if I remember rightly, the Dillon comes with a small one, and you need to swap it over for the large one, which is what I've done. Okay, now, so that's quite simple, increasing this and lowering this to get the right powder drop. However, that's not going to give you the accurate powder drop. Okay, that's got nothing to do with the accuracy. That's just going to give you the amount. What actually affects the accuracy? Okay, I'll try and get this in a little bit closer. What actually increases the accuracy of your powder drop is, let me find a pen or something. Yeah, I'll use this. Okay, so what actually increases your accuracy is this part of the slide here. When you pull the handle down, this here needs to go right in. Okay, it needs to go right up as close as you can get it to this part here. Alright, so it needs to slide right in and go as close as you can get it to that. And when the lever is up, in the up position, so what I'll do is I'll go to the down position first. Just give me a second. Alright, so if I pull the lever down, alright, if I pull the lever down, so I'm pulling the lever down now, and if you watch this part here, it'll go in as close as it can to this part here, this metal piece. Alright. Right, as soon as the case hits up into the funnel, alright, up into the powder here, this part here will start sliding forward. Now what's happening is, what's making this go forward is, let me just slide this forward, is this part here. Okay, this arm here is connected to here, and in there's a little plastic square. Okay, and that plastic square is connected to the slide, and it's being pushed that way. It's being pushed that way. Okay, and so what it does is, as that goes forward as far as it possibly can up to this point here, this is going in. So you watch as this goes forward that way. This part's going in. Okay, you can see it here. Okay, and it's going as far forward as it possibly can to there. Alright, now if I try and zoom in on that a bit, now I've got the lever arm right down at the moment, and the lever arm, before the lever arm was even fully down, this was right in as far as it could possibly go. Okay, and then the lever arm just gave a little bit more pressure while that was there. Okay, now I could probably push that in physically a little bit further, but that's as far as it'll go, and that you need to get that part there in as far as you can get it to go. Alright, here's a different angle of it. Lever arm still down. Okay, now, and you can also see, try and get this in as best I can, you'll also see the plastic piece, alright, the plastic piece just down in here, where my pen is pointing, over here, that's as far forward as it can possibly go. Okay, I will try and get it come up a little bit, so you can see a bit closer. Where are we? Don't want to lose it. There. Okay, trying to get in. That's as far forward as it can possibly go. Now, it could probably go a little bit further. If that plastic square is actually probably about 1 millimeter too small, it could actually fit in there a bit better. and it would actually push it a little bit further, probably about 1 millimeter, okay, just to put that little bit more pressure on this part up here. But you can see where that's squared out, that's as far as it can go, and you don't want that end part there sticking out. It needs to be fully flush in, as far as it can go, okay, with that plastic piece there. Alright. Now, on the back there, you see that metal piece there sticking up? You can just see it come into shot there, that metal piece. It's sticking up. It looks like a funny little metal hat. Okay, that part there, when I bring the lever up, okay, when I bring the lever back up, that needs to go as close to the other metal piece on the back as close as it can. I'll try and get a shot from this other angle on this side. Alright, I'll put this camera down. Come back a bit. Okay, I might need to come around the other side actually. Just trying to hold the lever arm down at the same time while I do this. Okay, that's probably better there. So if we can line that up. Now, let's have a look here. Okay, so this funny looking piece here, okay, looks like a hat almost, metal piece. When we pull the lever arm up, we want to get this here as close as possible to this back piece. Okay, so this is the whole lever arm sticking out now. Alright, the powder slide, or whatever you want to call it. So we need to get this part here as close as we possibly can to here. Okay, now that when we push the lever arm up, that plastic piece there, alright, that there is now going to slide back the other way that it came from. Alright, and it's going to slide down here and back to over here, alright, to where it was. Now when that slides back, that's going to push this here close to that, and we need to get this plastic piece as far to the left hand side as we possibly can, because that will bring that metal piece as close to this as we possibly can. Really, we'd want this here to hit that if we could, okay, so that we could actually adjust. It would be better if we could adjust this so that it could actually hit that, so it would get perfect every time. So basically we want really to get perfect drops. We want this part here coming in up to here on this side, on my left hand side here. We want this part here coming in and into here as far as we can, and stopping at the exact point that we want it to stop at every time. And we want this part here to be coming in and stopping here at the point that we want it to stop at exactly the same place every time. And that means that when this here's powder is dropping into here, we're going to get the exact same amount dropping in to this powder slide every time. Okay, and obviously because it's gravity, as I said before, it needs to drop. You need to give it time to drop in. Now, the accuracy of this is all dependent on this plastic square in here. How far this plastic square can push forward to get this far piece up as far close to here as possible, and how far this plastic piece pushes back this way when I bring the arm up to bring this as close as possible to that, will depend on the accuracy of our thing. It's got nothing to do with this big knob here. This big knob will just tell us how much we're going to drop, but it's how this is being placed, as I've just explained, on how much powder is actually going to drop into here, because it needs to be everything needs to be perfect for it to be dropping into here, and that's how we make it perfect. Okay, now we can only make it as perfect as what they've given us based on this plastic square in here, and how far it'll go to the left and how far it'll go to the right. Okay, we can only work with what we've got. So how do we decide when? Now let's just take this the lever arm up and watch this part here come forward now. Okay, so currently I've dropped the powder that was currently in here into the case. Right, the case is down in here at the moment. The case is in there. The powder is dropped. When I pulled the lever arm down, it's dropped what powder was in here into the case. Now as I bring the lever arm back up, it's going to then drop. Okay, I'll bring the lever arm up first. I'll just do that so you can see. All right, bringing the lever arm up, bringing it up, bringing it up, bringing it up, and it stops. Okay, so I'll just come back a bit. So I've brought the lever arm back up. Here's our lever arm. Alright, and I've just stopped there. I've just stopped there. I didn't do anything else. Alright, I just stopped there. Now, what I've got to do now is I've got to push this lever arm slightly forward a little bit more. Okay, and that means when I do that, the powder from up in here will drop into here. A load of powder into here, okay? And when I push this forward, wherever this is located between here and here, and out this way, was the amount of powder that'll drop in. So I'll push this forward, okay? And you see this part here just slowly moving in, right? It just moved in slightly, right? So I'm pushing this here forward, the lever. I hold it there to give gravity time to drop the powder into here. Alright, and then I release. Alright, I release. Now you could give it a bit of a tap when you're doing that just to make sure it gets everything in and no powder gets stuck on anything or held up through magnetic energy or whatever else you want to do, okay, static energy. You could give it a bit of a tap to make sure everything falls into that. It'll probably help, okay. So that's what we've done. Now what we'd do is we'd grab our powder out, our case, okay, from that powder drop. I'll just turn this thing back on. Alright. Try and zoom this in a little bit. Okay, and we'll see how we went. Okay, 4.60. Dropping down a little bit. Okay, close enough. Alright. If I wanted to be on the safe side, I could probably increase that little black knob, the big knob that I showed you earlier. I could give that a little bit of a touch to the right or clockwise slightly if I wanted to, if I wasn't getting the perfect amount. So what I'm going to do now is I'll just come back and I'm going to do that again, okay? Right, without pausing for so long. Right, so pull it down. It drops the load that's currently in the slide here. I bring it up. I push the arm slightly forward. It drops a new load into here. Okay, and I release. Alright, then we come back over here and we measure. Okay, again, we don't want to drop anything out, so this is the key. Because even if we were to drop one grain out, if one grain was to drop out through the wind or whatever, then we're not going to get the perfect amount in here. Obviously, if one grain out could make it go to slightly smaller, okay, a slightly smaller amount. Okay, 4.6. 4.62. 4.62. 4.6. All goods. Okay, we'll drop that back into the funnel. Okay, Always make sure that it's completely clear, the thing, if we can. Alright, and that's pretty much it. Now, okay, so that's where we're getting the perfect powder drop. So, now, the question is, how do you get this plastic piece that I was talking about, the square plastic piece and everything, to get it to the perfect place? What we want is, we want this plastic piece here pushing as far to the left as we can possibly get it, okay, and we want the plastic piece pushing the slide also as far to the right as we can possibly get it. Now, if you have a look, it's probably not even a millimetre, okay, it's probably about, I don't know, it's pretty damn, I'll try and get as close as I can there, but this plastic piece here, there'd be just a little bit of a gap. Even here, you can see here, see that little bit of a gap there, alright, not with the plastic piece, but actually on the slide there, where the pen is pointing, okay, that metal piece there, we don't really want that there. We really want this here, this plastic piece, to push up onto this piece here, onto this edge, okay, that's where we want it to push to, because if we can get that accuracy pushing up against something and it can't go any further, and then pushing up against the other side and it can't go any further, then we know that the amount of powder that's dropping in every time is going to be perfect. So there's a little, so it's a little bit out, all this stuff, it's a little bit out. Now, how do we get this to do that? Okay, how it works is, if you look at this, part here where it comes down to this arm, okay, the actuating arm here, I'll call it, okay, because it makes everything action everything. So this black arm that's coming down, alright, just going to move this way a little bit further. This actuating arm here, that the pen's going down now, slides down to this blue wing nut, okay. So this blue wing nut is the key to all of this, everything else that's happening up the top. What we need to do is, you need to get this wing nut and you need to tighten it, okay, tighten it or loosen it and get it to the right point where you're getting maximum pressure, okay, where you're getting maximum pressure, so that it will push this, using the lever arm here, okay, push this to the far to the left as possible and as far to the right as possible, okay. You need it to go to the as far to the right as you possibly can get it, and as far to the left as you can possibly get it, without breaking something, okay. So when you do the wing nut up, when you do this blue wing nut up, okay, you need to, as you go up, you need to be focusing on where this plastic thing here is going, how the slide is going, okay. You need to be making sure that this plastic piece is able to push across there far enough to get this whole thing to slide in, and you need to make sure that it's pushing far enough to the left to get this that metal looking type hat, okay, funny looking hat, is close enough to the metal as possible as well, okay. And so that's all done by this here wing nut. Now you also want this actuating arm to be as straight as possible, okay. It should flow naturally, okay, everything should work naturally in sync. So it should be almost parallel, well, not parallel but vertical, okay, but pretty much as long as everything's flowing nicely, nothing should be going click 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 and whatever else as such. If anything doesn't sound right, you need to make it so that it all works smoothly and it doesn't sound like it's under pressure, okay, but you need to get this wing nut as high as you possibly can to be able to do what I just explained without damaging anything. Now as you put this wing nut up higher, when you screw it to go up, as you go up higher and higher, as you start to get where you need to, you'll feel the pressure of the lever arm, okay. As the lever arm starts to come down, okay, and you get it right to the bottom, pull the lever arm right down, you'll feel some pressure, okay? And if it's too much pressure that it might damage something, you need to unscrew the wing nut. You need to undo the wing nut a little bit, okay? You want it to get just to the point where you've got, it just feels right, okay? And I can't show you how to do that. You've got to feel it, okay? It's just a feeling. You'll feel it where it's just under pressure, but it's not going to damage anything, okay? And you're bringing it up where it's just under pressure when you're pushing it forward. It's the same when you're pushing it forward. You'll feel the pressure as you're pressing it forward, okay? Which will be pushing this part here back, and you just want it that as far you want it as you want it at just the right pressure. I can't put it any other way. You want it at just the right pressure where it's pushing it as far as you possibly can without damaging anything, okay? All right, and it just feels right. It just feels smooth, okay? It just feels right. So that's how you do it, okay? So if you get that part there set up first, you set all this part up first with the wing nut. You set the wing nut up, get the wing nut, get everything all lined up. Make sure that this part here is going right in as you do it. Make sure it's bringing, you know, the white piece is going as far as it can to the right and as far as it can to the left. All right, and once you've got that all working nicely, then you don't have to have the powder in while you're doing that. Don't have the powder in. Don't have any powder in while you're doing this first part. Just setting up the wing nut and all this part. Don't have any powder in. You don't need the powder in at that stage. Okay. Once you've got all of this perfectly set up to how you want it, okay, then you put the powder in, and then once you've got the powder in, then you start to adjust this main nut. That's where this nut here comes in, okay? You start to adjust that nut there once you've got the powder in, and you get the right amount that you want dropping in. As I said, clockwise or turning to the right will increase the load of powder. Anti-clockwise or turning it to the left will decrease the amount of powder. And all you've got to do then is do that. And because all this other powder is all set up correctly, you can adjust the powder. You can adjust this to the amount of powder you want each time, and it'll be perfect each time, because the main this main thing here, slide, is working properly. It's going fully to the left and fully to the right, okay? What you can also do, what I've actually done as well, is I've got a pair of calipers, digital calipers, and every time I've moved this in and out, I've measured it in here, okay? I've measured it in between this metal piece and this metal piece, just whatever gap you can find in here. Okay, I'd measure it. I'll bring this up slightly to see if I can get a better shot. Okay, so I would measure in between there, where this pen tip is. I'd measure in there, either on this side or the other side. It doesn't really matter. And I'd measure it to see if I'm getting the right distance each time. I'd try and get that as close as I can possibly get it, where there's almost no gap. Okay, I'd get this as close as I possibly could, where there was no gap in between these two metal pieces, where you can see my pen. That's impossible. I can't get it any further. If I try and go any closer than that, I'd probably snap this. Something over here would break, either this plastic piece or it's too much pressure. But what Dillon could probably do is try and do something where they can get this in place. The only other way is you could make something like on here, you could, you know, I don't know, glue something in place where it's going to hit that spot each time, or do something where it could be, you know, just fit in there, whatever, you know, where there actually is a spot there. Anyway, that's pretty much it. You'll get perfect loads each time doing that. Hope this has helped. Subscribe, like, share, and I'll catch you on the next video. Thanks very much. Bye bye.